Stay right where you are.
Extra chatter for your binge. This is a podcast-exclusive episode of Chatterbinge.
This is Chatterbinge.
When Caryn and I first decided to do Chatterbinge, one of the things that we both felt very strongly about is that this would be an opportunity for each of us to talk about and maybe even create awareness about things we each find important. And that is one of the reasons why we do these special podcast-only episodes where we're not restricted by time and we're not looking at a clock for 11 minutes or 9 minutes. And it allows us to do deeper dives into subjects. And what we're going to do in this episode is Caryn is going to talk about something that she feels very strongly about.
Oh, that's an understatement. You know, Ed, you and I have talked about the fact that we're huge animal lovers, and I know there's so many of us out there. And very early on, you know, since my childhood days, I've been so drawn to animals, any animals. But ultimately, it started to manifest that I was really obsessed with cats. You know, at a very early age, I was a very young, crazy cat lady. And throughout the years of rescue, I have been heartbroken at the amount of work that is still needed, that continues to be done, and the uphill climb in order to alleviate the feral cat population. So we're not talking about domestic cats here, or dogs for that matter, obviously, those that are lucky enough to have a home. But when you look at the statistics about feral cats, and let me say this, the difference between feral and stray is also something, you know, to kind of delineate for our listeners. Feral cats are not acclimated towards human beings at all. Strays quite often are cats that got lost. They are they can be friendly. They can, you know, naturally become assimilated in more of the feral wild cat world, and so they're not particularly comfortable around humans. Either which way, we have a huge problem. So statistically, there's about 60 to 100 million stray cats in the United States. Did you know that?
No.
I mean, I didn't either until I took a little bit of a deeper dive. So imagine that. I mean, conservatively, they might say 30 to 80, either which way. If you sort of do the multiplication and you realize that a kitty can get pregnant as early as 5 months old, they can have up to 3 litters a year, 4 to 6 kittens each. So 5 years for an unspayed female, she could potentially have 20,000 descendants.
Wow.
And that's mind-blowing.
That is mind-blowing. I did not expect you to throw numbers like that out there. That is nowhere near what I thought the situation was. You have totally blown me away with those numbers.
Well, I did a little research also. I have those numbers in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I just know they're astronomical. I did do a little cheating before we did the episode, just so I got the numbers right and gave you the most current statistics. But the question is, what do we do? How do we handle this? The shelters are overloaded. What it takes to spay and neuter cats is really a process. And I've worked with so many people. People will call me and say, I have a pregnant mama and kittens in my yard. It just happened last week. What do we do? The amount of effort it takes to trap those cats, to wait until those kittens are weaned, which means that they no longer need their mother's support, their mother's milk, then get that feral mama cat spayed and release her, which is a thing in rescue where you trap, neuter, release, TNR. And then those kittens, where do those kittens go? Who's taking the time to, vet potential homes and finding them a place where they can live out their lives? And cats can live quite a long time. So we have a crisis in the rescue world. And one of the things, and this is what I said to you, I wanted to talk to you about, because when we started this concept, your beautiful concept of Chatterbinge, and I said to you, I would love to talk about this ethical question because I'm up against it all the time. Happened just a few weeks ago. What do you do when there's a feral, pregnant cat and you have trapped this cat to get it spayed and the vet calls you and says she's pregnant?
That's a decision to be made.
Now, I don't want us to go down the road of abortion. That is so loaded and so personal.
Mm-hmm.
However, here we're faced with a situation in rescue where we know then statistically the odds of kittens surviving are so slim. They get hit by cars, destroyed by coyotes, foxes, raccoons, possums. No, not possums. Absolutely not possums. But I don't want to give the possum a bad name. But, it's a wild kingdom out there. Everybody is trying to survive. So how do you make that decision? And I am here to tell you that after years of crying, searching my soul, and really, absolutely debilitated by this, and I mean that literally, I'm not exaggerating. This is a hard one, but my choice at this point is to abort those kittens. And I would love to know, when you hear that, Ed, what are your thoughts? Again, we're not talking about anything else other than we have feral kittens, most likely not going to survive, and if they do survive, they're not going to survive well. Do you spare these kittens from a really, really challenging life ahead of them and potentially a really awful death? And where are they going to eat and who's taking care of them and their medical needs and all of that? Or do you make the decision to say, okay, let's just take the emotion out of it and make the best choice, given the statistics out there? What do you think?
Well, I think if you're going to strip the emotion out of it and to make an educated decision about this, you need to. I'm thinking about some of the things that you've just mentioned to me over the past few minutes. I never knew that a kitty could get pregnant at 5 months. I didn't know how many descendants, when you really map this out, if that litter were to survive. I can see why you would make a decision to abort the litter, because you're not solving the entire problem, but what you're trying to do is solve at least one tiny vein of that problem. When you describe the rough life that these cats have, and they are wild, that is the difference between the word feral and the word stray. They are not domesticated animals per se. I can understand why you would make that decision. I don't know if I would stand up and cheer, but I can understand why you would do that, because what you're trying to do is to make at least a slight difference to a very systemic problem. It is a problem that is obviously way out of hand with the numbers that you're giving us here today. So I can understand why someone would do that. And I think that, do I want to say it's the right decision? Perhaps even yes, I do want to say that, yes, because I think it's something that will help in some little way stem this. Because what is the quality of life that these cats would have anyway? I think about around here where we have fox, we have coyotes, we have everything. And the stray cats, the feral cats around here, that's really the first line of feeding that goes on as well. So what you've just done, you've given me a bit of an education that I did not have. I can look at this in a much different way, and I can understand and I can support a decision like that.
I appreciate, that response, because honestly, I struggle with it every day that I go out and trap. I pray that there's no pregnancy. I pray that I am not put in the position to play God, for lack of a better description, or, I'm just, along with so many other rescue folks, trying, as you say, to put the smallest dent in a massive problem. And it is a terrible position to be in. And I used to, try to find homes for the cats and try to figure out a way around that. But you very easily get so overwhelmed. And, you find yourself with 20 cats one day.
Yeah.
And there's not enough homes either.
No.
And then again, if we look at the position of these are actual ferals and they're never going to be handled. So again, we're not talking about domestic kitties that were left out on the street. And when you come across a friendly kitty, that is a whole different ballgame there. But when this is a feral cat, will never be comfortable around human beings. And the process of trying to, manage finding people, there are some cats that, there's colonies, there's people that feed community cats. And in that case, those cats are lucky. Mm-hmm. And that's really a whole different story. But it doesn't necessarily address the overpopulation problem. But in a situation where these are community cats, there's a caregiver on a schedule, feeding, keeping an eye out for disease, making sure that all these kitties are spayed and neutered, so that throughout the years, as their lifespan, comes to an end, they are not repopulating. That is the way to manage the population. But when you have cats that are not even being cared for, running all over every city in the United States, these cats are viewed as pests. Mm-hmm. People don't like them, many. People harm them, sadly. People, are poisoning feral cats. Not the most uplifting segment we're doing here. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, at least I would like to think so. People object to the fact that ferals have to survive. They're killing birds. They're killing, wildlife. There's many groups in the United States in particular that fight against this feral cat population, want them destroyed, want them gone. But I will tell you that I am incredibly, insanely passionate about this process of trapping and spay-neutering. I encourage anyone who loves cats to just lend a hand somehow. Reach out to your local rescues. See, because if everyone just did it once, we would make such a dent. And on the other hand, I have complete compassion for the fact that it is a huge undertaking. It's huge. You need to be educated. You have to know how to trap, what to do once you trap. You need the resources. Who's spay and neutering these cats? There's a number of organizations in every city that specifically will do free spay and neutering. But the effort involved, if you have children and a family and you're working and you have a life, it's really asking a lot. And if we, as rescue lovers, could spread it around a bit and carry that load together, what a difference we could all make. I certainly don't mean to be preachy, but again, it's such a passion for me. And it's so interesting though, and we don't have the same dog problem, obviously. You very rarely hear about, a pack of feral dogs. It happens, but it's rare. And so somehow for the kitties in life, they have a bad lot, those cats on the street.
So when you trap, take me through this. I want to know the process, because I know someone is listening to this and now they may be inspired to do something. Because I think what you've done is created quite a call to action here, because you've educated anybody that's listening to this. And I know that people that have similar sensitivities to you and to I now feel as if they want to do something wherever they are listening to this. How do you trap? Explain that to me. Educate me. Teach me, Caryn. How do you trap? What is that process?
I love that you asked that question. I appreciate it so much. Okay, so first step, you have a feral mama in your backyard, and you want to get her spayed and neutered. So the first thing I would advise is that any cat that has already been spayed and neutered has a piece of their ear clipped. So while they're under anesthesia, they will snip a tiny bit of their ear. And so if you see that, you know that that cat has already been spayed and neutered. Mm-hmm. Hallelujah. Most likely it has not been. So the first thing you do is try to get a trap. Local rescues will lend you traps. Many local rescues have trapping education, have videos on their websites. It's not that difficult to actually set the trap. It's just so emotional. My heart pounds out of my chest every time I'm trapping. You set the trap. It's a safe trap. It is I'm sure people have seen them where one end opens and you set the food at the end. Mm-hmm. You hope that the cat will be hungry enough. You can withhold food for a day or two just to make sure that they're extra hungry. Hopefully they will walk into that trap, set it off, it closes behind them. Then you panic because that cat panics. That cat knows it's trapped and it is thrashing around. And the way to solve that problem is to throw a blanket, towel, make sure and cover that trap instantly. The cat feels safer. And there you go. You have your kitty. But before you do any of that, and I've had this problem come up where people trap and they have nowhere to bring the cats. Mm-hmm. So forgive me for not mentioning that first. The first thing is to find a clinic or know where you are bringing that cat. Know where that cat is now going to be for the rest of the evening until you can bring it to a spay-neuter facility. Those appointments are not that easy to get. So again, I keep repeating this process. It makes sense to me that that a lot of people are not jumping in to do it because it takes a certain amount of commitment. But again, if we shared it, it would be much easier. So you have your kitty, you have an appointment tomorrow morning. Hopefully you keep that kitty in the garage, in a bathroom, quiet, covered. Next morning you trot off, say, sorry, kitty. It goes into the clinic. You pick it up in the afternoon. If it was a male, they just need to stay in the trap somewhere warm. They can't regulate their body temperature once they've had anesthesia, so you want to keep them warm. They, again, go in a garage, in a bathroom, in someplace, and you can release them the next morning. With females, I like to keep them at least 2 nights. They have a much more involved spay surgery. The little guys just get their little testicles trimmed off and away we go.
Okay.
Okay.
I just tightened up in 7 different places right then and there. Wow. Okay.
The females, though, sadly, it's a bit more invasive. Mm-hmm. And where you run into having to hold on to a female cat is if she had been pregnant, early on they will automatically end that pregnancy. As you get further along, different clinics handle that in different ways. Mm-hmm. And that cat would require more of recovery. And then standard practice, once everybody's recovered, you feed in the trap. You change out newspaper or whatever you have underneath the kitty. And then you release. And that's always a joyful feeling, only in that that you're preventing more problems for the kitties out there.
I was just going to ask you that. When you get the cat back and you release the cat back into the wild, what that feeling is like for you. Now, you've done this several times, so do you get the same feeling? Is it different in any way? Because you are making a difference, and this is a true passion for you. What does that feel like?
I am what I would call an insanely passionate, reluctant trapper. And I know you and I have never talked about this, but I've done it much more so than a few times. I have done it religiously for the last 10 years in my life, at least. And, the question is, how does it feel?
Yeah.
The whole process is, I'm shaking. I'm not comfortable with it. I hate that the cat is suffering and doesn't understand. The cat feels trapped. The cat is panicking. Hopefully the process happens quickly enough. But the release sort of feels like I want Hallelujah to be playing in the background. And the cat is always so stunned and surprised. There's always this split second where the cat does not necessarily run out of that trap when you open it and step aside. And the rule of thumb is you return the kitty to where you trapped it. So it knows where it is.
Okay.
You don't want to be relocating cats.
Right.
They're very territorial. And again, I'm not really trying as much to educate our listeners as much as I'm blathering on about spay-neutering of cats. But you release it, and that kitty inevitably, more times than not, the kitty is reluctant to leave. It kind of gets wind of, oh my gosh, I'm back. It gives me the most interesting look I've ever seen an animal give me. And it's one of like complete surprise, and maybe I'm projecting, but a little bit of gratitude. And I'm definitely projecting. And it runs off. It runs off.
And think of the story it has to tell its other fellow feral cats. Let me tell you what happened to me last night. Wow.
Seriously. I mean, I can't even imagine what's going through their little heads. And it's so traumatic for them. And, if I could turn my own head, if I could look another way and not see it and not know that to date it is the only way that I'm aware of to prevent the problem. I am praying that they invent a pill that you can just put in a kitty's food dish and it instantly sterilizes them. And, what an amazing gift that would be to the animal population. But in the meantime, sadly, we do have to interfere to help the bigger issue. And I'm grateful that there are people out there that are passionate about it. And for anyone who has ever done it, I respect and admire you beyond words. And if I have inspired anybody to even think about it, that just means the world to me.
Wow. Two things. First thing is that you are so committed to this. You don't just talk about it. You've done it several times. And I think that's quite admirable, because anyone could have an opinion. Anyone could want to do something. But you know what? When the rubber hits the road, you actually go out, you set the traps, you understand what to do. And in your own corner of the world, yes, you are making a difference. The other one is, and I think you came up with a wonderful idea a couple of minutes ago. Don't just think of the song Hallelujah being played when you release the cat. Bring your iPhone and have your Spotify list ready to go. All you got to do is tap. As you release the cat, you can play Hallelujah as the feral cat goes and tells his friends about what happened last night. I think that would be a wonderful way. What a denouement in this whole thing. I think that would be just a lovely touch. You got to do that next time. Please,
oh my gosh,
please promise me you will.
I will. I want that on camera, and I will absolutely bring a buddy the next time I release, and we will blast Hallelujah.
Very nice.
I am the kitty-loving Caryn Richman.
And I am the quite impressed Ed Kalegi.
This is Chatterbinge from Audio One.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can always catch our best guest conversations and segments right here on the YouTube home of Chatterbinge.